Big ups to McNeil Trucking. Thank you, McNeil Trucking. With McNeil Trucking, you're in good hands. They're licensed and insured movers. Get them a call, 954-406-9740. They come to you to help you get your business on the way. So you're moving from here to there, from point A to point B. Call them up, 954-406-9740. Of course, they're movers. They should come to you, shouldn't they? Big ups to Chioli. Changing your lifestyle will change your life. Call up Althea, licensed massage therapist and personal trainer. So she comes to you and she gets all your fitness taken care of, right? So call her up, 954-655-9000. That's 954-655-9000. Call her up, tell her you heard Kevin Stew talking about her and you want to get some fitness on, right? Cool. All right, so right about now, we're going to hit you with pre-life. If you don't know what pre-life is, I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint right here. It's courtesy of Red Fox, and Red Fox tells us his view of life lyrically. So he talks to us about life. So pre-life coming to you.
Yes, my people. Check out I Red Fox on Reggae Global Radio every Saturday at 8 p.m. with Kev Stew. Where I'll give you a pre-life. Brand new. Good for you. Kick it like a ball if you don't say a dance hall. You hear that? Yeah. What I'm saying? Alright, we're gonna do it like this now. Some said I'm getting old, but I'm getting much wiser. The more wisdom, the more life get nicer. Live life while you're young, well every man have a timer. Can't hide or can't run when the judgment arrive, yeah. The whole of the moon and the bright eye shiner. New broom sweep clean, old broom get the spider. It's not the amount of tune, it's the itch that you find. Some bust like balloon, but we explode when we rise, yeah. Another album coming soon. Push up your lighter, that's all I've been doing. Just writing as a writer. Have some great stuff brewing, quality when me strive for. Me not stop pushing, Jack give me the vibes, yeah. You know they pan a rush still in them, and easy like one. Jack keep me tranquil, worse sound and power. Too much ace make the cup spill, time is the master. Patience is the key, faith is my water. That quenches my thirst within the storm. Read up Proverbs, Jack keep me calm. In the coldest of winter, I feel so warm. Long distance sprinter, yeah man, me still a go on. Unconquerable, I don't listen to the noise. God speak in silence, his spirit keeps me wise. There's no need for violence when you see through his eyes. Every man I'm a hygiene, some just show love in disguise. Rejection is a blessing, what is to be, have to be. With the pre-life lessons, you rule your destiny. Everything is for a reason, even your enemies. Everything at this season, make sure your plan sees. Me only fear Jah, cause I him create the eye. Mind over matter, there's the limit in the sky. Now be a conqueror, cause legends never die. And heal the emperor, Haile Selassie. Pray life. Red Fox, Kevin Stew.
Yeah, that's called pre-life. You get it? You understand it? Cool. So we'll work with it.
Life is good.
And as for pre-life, we understand one thing. If you didn't know it before, you will learn it right now. That one thing is that life is good. No matter what you're going through, you know, learn this. Yeah, man, mate, no?
At the movies.
That's where you want to go?
Around 3 love.
3 good.
What you wanna see? What you wanna eat?
Some popcorn, that works still.
Have a drink. Endless possibilities.
I'll walk with some water.
Not a worry in the world.
You know I got to drive, you
It's
know?
me and my girls.
You and girls?
In the world.
Yeah, man, I'm in.
We just came to have fun.
Life will be real good at that point.
Good. Life is
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time. Time pass, actually.
good.
But without further ado, I present to you
Life is good.
the secret ingredient for today. Let's see how good life can be.
Is good. Stay love. We should meet up
Ladies and gentlemen, This track is called Life is Good. Artist goes by the name Rachel Davie Lee.
What you wanna eat?
Nice bones to it, right? You feel right?
Endless possibilities.
Let's see how good life is. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the one and only, the singer, Rachel Davie Lee. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you for the introduction.
Oh, you're very welcome. How are you?
I'm pretty well, and it was interesting listening to that song, as it kind of always is. You know, hearing your own song played, and the thought was going through my mind at the time. Well, you know, that song was really based on, you know, it's a very simple song, simple lyrics, but it was pretty much based on my life here in Tortola, which I may have mentioned to you. That's where I currently live. It's an island in the Caribbean, and life kind of, you know, there are days when it just doesn't get much better than, you know, taking a drive, being thankful for the weather, being thankful for your friends, you know, no major complications, most days anyway. So
Real island
that's
life.
kind of the essence of that song, just being thankful for simple things.
Yeah. We do need to give thanks for the small things.
Yeah.
So, where exactly in the Caribbean? What chain of islands is?
Well, so Tortola is part of the British Virgin Islands. So
Okay.
I guess this is what, if you can call it a capital, it's a capital or main island within the Virgin Islands. And these are very tiny islands in the Eastern Caribbean. So we are quite close to other islands, such as St. Lucia, Antigua. But the British Virgin Islands themselves are a collection of islands.
So now I'm a little curious. How exactly did you end up in Tortola?
Mainly for, well, the principal reason was for work. However, I did have family connections because my dad, many years ago, he was the Attorney General over here, and he met his now wife, who is my stepmother. And so before moving out here, I had been on a couple of vacations, and one of them turned into more or less a job hunting vacation. And it was at a time in my life that when the opportunity came up, I was kind of in a bit of a rut in terms of what I was doing.
Right.
From where I was living in the UK, which is actually Glasgow in Scotland. And this seemed to offer a change, not just professionally, but for personal reasons as well, because although I have Caribbean heritage, I didn't grow up there. It just seemed like the perfect opportunity to feel a bit closer anyway to that side of my heritage and to live. I mean, if you grow up in the UK, you do kind of have this dream of the vision of the Caribbean is it's the place of paradise. It's the place you escape to. And I can tell you, well, I know that you're Jamaican, but so of course it's not literally paradise when you live and work there, but it's still a very beautiful place to live, and you don't have as much rain.
So, okay. We know what took you over there to Tortola. So you grew up in Scotland. In the UK.
Well, I grew up in London.
Okay.
So I was born in Jamaica, but then my family moved to London. The Scottish part comes in because my mum was Scottish. So that was always had a connection to Scotland. And I did end up studying and working there for a time as well. Yeah.
So what brought you to music?
Well, I suppose, what brought me to music? I guess you could say that music had been just a part of my life from a very young age. So from about age 8, I started to play the violin. I never became very good at it. Like, it was something, which is something I regret now in terms of not giving a lot of attention to sort of get better at it as a craft. But it helped. I think once music becomes a kind of a routine and a discipline as part of your everyday life, it, it sets the foundation early.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd always loved singing, but I didn't really get serious about singing until I went to university, and I started having classical tuition at the music department at my university. And I think, and I'm sure any singer can relate, you develop an awareness, I think, from quite early on that that you might have a voice. And of course, if you really love it, then for me, that was what I then went on to, that became my main instrument, so to speak.
Right.
So, but I suppose the short answer would be I did start learning music from quite a young age.
So, about how old would you say? I started learning music about at age 10. I remember that. Against my will, I started learning music at age 10.
Yes, yeah.
I don't
I can
regret
relate to against the will.
any of it today. None of it I regret today. I was taught to play brass at age 10, to read music, and I have gone on and taught myself to learn other instruments. I have conducted choirs and bands and taught music and done the works. So never regretted it as an adult. Hated it as a child. So round about when did you start learning music?
Well, so as I think I mentioned, I was at least 8 or thereabouts when I started playing the violin. And this was something which definitely felt enforced. I think my mum just had, I suppose, this vicarious wish to learn the violin through me. And as I said, it wasn't something which I ever felt I took to naturally. But I think a lot of it is mindset and attitude, because when I actually tried to take it back up much later, but about 5 or 6 years ago now. And I found an excellent teacher, I suppose being an adult, you can have that more mature relationship and things, so it all makes a difference. But the violin is so technical, and it's one of those instruments which is really hard.
Is it?
To get a really nice sound. Well, for me, so I suppose I'm just kind of exposing that I probably wasn't made for the violin in the first place.
Okay, I won't tell my violin story then. No, I will say, if you don't play it right,
it's just very hard to get back into it.
Yeah, if you don't play the violin right, it really does sound quite violent. So it's a good idea if it's not working out well with you to go on to something else that works.
One side.
And so singing was that thing that worked?
Yes. So as I said, it was something, I discovered, I guess, by my teens, younger. I have memories of being a very small girl and coming out of, in UK, we call it playgroup, which I guess is just like nursery.
Yeah.
And I would actually stand on the wall just outside and start singing at the top of my lungs some of the songs
The Hills
we'd
Are
just been
Alive?
singing.
With a sound of music?
Oh yeah, my first live performance with just my mum as the audience, and I think she was quite mortified actually. But I think from a young age, singing was my mode of self-expression, and it's kind of remained that way, because I would say that I am generally quite a reserved person, but with singing, I've always felt that sense of release, and that's kind of my freedom of my way of expression. But then, as I said, I took it up more seriously by getting formal lessons
Right.
when I was
At
student at
university.
university. Yeah, yeah,
Right. Nice. So,
yeah.
do you also write your material?
Yeah. So I suppose we'll get to talking a bit more about my new EP and those
Yeah.
songs that were released last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started experimenting with writing when I was getting more into singing contemporary music, because coming from a classical background, as you can probably appreciate, it's much more restricted. The focus for so long, I was very, very focused on technique and singing songs where there's not much room for improvisation.
Right.
You've kind of got to really
Precision.
focus on getting, yes. And I think that in a way held me back creatively, because it took me a long time to actually think of myself as even a songwriter. I just thought, well, no, I'm a singer and I love to sing other people's songs. I just want to sing those songs better and keep focusing on my technique. But then when I was living in Glasgow, which is quite a sort of fashionable city, diverse music scene, I was able to start collaborating with different musicians and kind of broadening my musical network, and then I was doing backing vocals or, supporting other independent artists for their project. And It just got me thinking, okay, I don't necessarily have, the compositional skills. I do read music, but I hadn't, music theory and stuff like that isn't a strong skill of mine. But I just started experimenting with melodies and lyrics and just forming song ideas. And that's kind of continued really until this day.
Okay. So here you are. You discovered your voice and you realized that you could put some words together.
Yeah.
And you met up with some musicians. Was it your idea to record some tracks, or did someone hear you and go, wait, you probably should do some recordings?
Well, I think I'd had previous recording experience of being, in the studio in a recording booth. Again, when I was in Glasgow and doing vocals for other musicians, and then going on to do cover songs. Because covers, as we know, are, a good way, especially when you're starting out and kind of developing a profile. It's a good way to demonstrate what you can do.
Right.
And I realized that I really love being in the recording studio. I mean, it can be quite a tedious process, but generally I felt quite comfortable. But the thing is, my life was very, as you know, it hasn't just taken a straightforward musical direction. My full-time job was always something else. And I also moved around a fair bit. So I think it was always in the back of my mind that, or, in my heart, that I wanted to pursue singing more seriously. And I felt that I had this capacity within the recording studio and to be a recording artist. Right. But it just wasn't a strong enough focus of mine until last year, when I did decide to just go ahead and release these songs. I think I'm jumping ahead a bit. I think you asked kind of how they came to be, and you'll have to remind me.
That's fine. We flow with it.
Yeah. So,
That's fine.
yeah, what happened was that I was put in touch through a music contact or friend, really, with a company in Atlanta. And Atlanta, as you probably know, is very progressive in terms of music, particularly Black music, R&B, soul music.
Right.
And through this contact, I was put in touch with a producer by the name of Tri Bishop. He's kind of what you call an up and coming producer. He's won some Grammy and Dove Awards in the gospel music scene.
Oh, nice.
And yeah. He's very talented producer. And so he heard some samples, I think just song, like previous recordings, just so he could get an idea of my vocals. And I sent him some song ideas. And from there, he said, well, you know, I can, from a production perspective, I think there's a lot I can do we can work with in terms of your tone. And so the next thing, I flew to Atlanta. We arranged a meeting in the studio there, and it was interesting because actually how he works is he likes to work organically. And although we had some song ideas to work with, once we were in the studio, it was very much sort of bouncing ideas off each other and kind of seeing what happened. So that's kind of how those songs happened. It wasn't as though I went with the songs and said, well, here, this is what we're going to do.
Oh,
it
nice.
was more kind of, yes, yeah, which was different for me too, I have to say. So hence the EP was born.
And it's titled Barely Concealed. Is there a story behind that title?
Well, the title for me is inspired mainly by the ballads on the EP. So there's 3 what you'd call kind of ballads, all in the R&B, soulful genre. And I guess I feel for me they are my strongest songs. And the name Barely Concealed comes from the fact that, you know, the songs are emotional. They're expressing, you know, feelings of love and longing and those kind of things. But I think my style as a performer and singing is I think the best way to describe it is contained passion. And this is something I've always remembered from when I used to do flamenco. And I remember my teachers, like the dance flamenco, and my teacher said to me, you know, flamenco is about contained passion. It's like there is passion, but you're kind of holding something back, and it's within a sort of still remains within a kind of structure. And
Not quite different from
I could kind
dance
of relate
hall.
to that. Sorry?
Very different from what you see in a dance hall.
Right, yes. Or hip hop or something. Yeah. So I could kind of relate to that. It's something which just resonated with me, I think, in terms of how I feel when I'm singing and my own performances.
Yes.
And so hence Barely Concealed, because if you think about when people say, oh, barely concealed emotions. So, you know, the emotions are there, but there's still something that's a bit concealed or camouflaged. So that was really the genesis, if you like, of the title.
So in the midst of, with taking that into consideration, is there something in the works along the lines of a Fully Exposed?
That could be the next EP. That could be.
Because I'm wondering, you know, if you're starting out kind of holding something back, you know, contained passion, then at some point there comes a time when you let it all go. You know, you know the old saying, the old Jamaican saying, every day you carry a bucket to the well, one day the bottom is going to fall out. So if you keep holding it back, at some point it's going to come out.
It's going to burst.
Do you feel that bursting in the works? It may not be right now, but do you see where there's possibly a Rachel that people are going to go, oh, Rachel, versus, ooh, Rachel.
As in now we're getting Rachel.
Yeah.
I would like to say yes, and interestingly, and my husband, obviously.
For years.
Right. So he has said to me that the best he's ever heard me sing is when I'm just singing at home, like kind of letting loose, letting rip. But when I'm on stage, I can sound almost a bit too polished.
That's that classical training. It messed you up.
It is. It does. It messes you up. It's very hard to break free.
Yeah.
And that could be another name for the EP, Break Free, because, as I said, you focus for so long on getting a perfect technique and a perfect sound, and you're not allowed to sort of let breaks into the voice and things. And although it does set up a good, actually very healthy foundation for singing generally,
yes.
It doesn't allow you to feel comfortable with when you eventually do explore breaking out a bit more, you kind of have to sort of forget stuff that you've learned and just really try to be comfortable with mistakes, be comfortable with more of your natural voice, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying that there's a lot more to come out of Rachel. So this is just tipping your toe into the pool.
Yes, most definitely. I think the EP, the idea of it, it was just to, give people an idea of what I can do, that I am quite versatile. Well, I like to think I'm quite versatile, because the 5 songs on there, as I said, although they're broadly within the R&B soul genre, each song is pretty different and uses different elements, slightly different musical elements. And, that to me that's authentic to me as a singer, because I can't say that I'm, primarily an R&B soul singer, because I've sung so many different things.
Right.
But certainly going forward, that is the brand I want to stick with.
Gotcha.
The Black music, Black soulful tradition is what does inspire me most as a singer in contemporary music, contemporary sound. So
do you see yourself, I'm sorry, do you see yourself mixing it up a little bit, considering that you do have Caribbean connections and you do live in the Caribbean itself? Do you find that there's a pull to mix it up a little bit? Because Life is Good has that a little bit of a dancehall feel to it.
Dancehall, island,
Yeah,
yes,
it's a slight crossover feel to it.
Yeah.
So you feel that heritage pull?
Yeah. I've always, I think if I could, I would actually love to sing more in the lovers rock style, which I suppose even...
Yes, that's exactly where I was going with that. Yes.
Which, as we know, there are a lot of lovers rock female singers. And I think my voice is quite suited to that. It's actually something I had explored a while back in Glasgow. I won't go off into that story, but
nice.
Yeah, it's something that never fully materialized. But for me, I love lovers rock, because as with reggae, it's very melodious. It's it's something that I would feel quite at home singing, but it's something I would, I'd like to explore it more. I'd like to develop it more.
I can tell you this, here on Reggae Global Radio, there are a number of artists and producers and that are a part of the family in Reggae Global. So, with you being introduced to the family now, you kind of have access to some of these people. What I suggest you do is reach out and see where it can go from there.
Yes.
Some of the greats are friends of Reggae Global. You know, you when you talk about a Willie Lindo, you know, Kashif
Yeah.
is literally family to Reggae Global. You know, you
Amazing.
you have the Ed Robinson who is on Reggae Global as a
Yeah.
presenter himself,
Yeah.
a longtime
Yeah.
producer, Joanna Marie, who is also involved, very involved, you know, and the list goes on, you know, Charlie's Third
Oh,
World, all connected, you know. So
yeah.
it's a good
Great.
connection to have.
Alia.
Sorry?
I just mentioned Alia because although I suppose she's not really lovers rock per se, but she's a contemporary reggae kind of light dancehall type of singer, isn't she? But you can definitely some of her songs have that lovers rock feel to them as well. But you know, she's a singer I like.
So, you know, there's a space for you. I'm just saying. I kind of hear it, but people are gonna get a little bit familiar with your music as we go up to the top of the hour. We're gonna take a break at the top of the hour, but before I get into that, I'd like for you to let us know where people can go and get your music, because and do you have a preference? You want it to be streamed or do you want it to be bought? Because I know that the industry has moved a lot towards streaming. So, what is your preference?
Well, that's the first time anyone's actually ever asked me that. So, I think right now I'm starting out as still a new artist, still establishing artist. Streaming is quite important. We live in, as you know, the music industry, how it's changed so much.
Yes.
It's very much based on numbers of streams. Spotify
Right.
is still the dominant platform. Everybody seems to have, the whole Joe Rogan incident where Spotify is in the news. That's kind of yesterday's news now because we've got other stuff to talk about.
Right,
But
right.
yes, but I guess I just like to say yes, to anyone watching tonight, and if you're interested in support my music more, I would love it if you would go on Spotify, stream it. It's available to be streamed or bought on most major music platforms. So that includes Apple Music, Deezer, basically all the major platforms. But
Right.
streaming, I think, is pretty important now. So whatever streaming platform you have access to, that I'd be grateful for that.
Excellent. So, where can people get in touch with you? Because again, we're a digital age. Community is as far as your fingertip to a screen or a click.
Right.
So, where in the neighborhood can people find you?
So I have several social media pages. I have my Facebook page. I have my SoundCloud account. I have my Twitter account, and Instagram. Yeah.
And what are the handles?
There's so much nowadays. You kind of have to keep up with all the different platforms. But
Right.
yeah, those pages that I create. I do have a YouTube page as well. But
What are the handles?
yeah, in terms of the handles, so it would be. Well, so whether it's Twitter or Instagram, or Facebook, it's Rachel Davie Lee. So if you were to just type in the artist name Rachel Davie Lee,
Right.
and Davie is 2 words, Davie Lee Lee. Sorry, Davie Lee is 2 words.
I was just gonna ask you, how did you split that up?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I don't know the full whatever Facebook or whatever uses as its full handle, but
Right.
it must be the artist name. And then my artist email is racheldavielee@outlook.com.
Got you. Perfect. So I'm gonna bounce through some of your tunes. We have 8 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm gonna do some teasing with some of your tunes, and I want you to stick around for it. I'm just gonna play a little bit and move on. You know, especially because of upload reasons with the podcast and such. So we played "Life Is Good" to kick things off. I'll tell you this. I really enjoyed listening to your EP.
Oh, thank you.
There's one particular track that stands up, especially in this time when there's conflict that is big in the news. And it's not to say that there isn't conflict going on all the time, but there's this bit of conflict that is big in the news right now that is pretty much on our doorsteps and directly affecting us. When it's not directly affecting us, we don't really seem to care about it, but we're reminded of certain things. And this little tune here, it has so many sides to it. It's more of a love song, but it reminds us to love. That's how I receive it. And it's a track called "Love Is in the Air."
Gotcha. Yeah, nice interpretation. That means a lot to hear how you receive it.
Yeah, and even this week we have a high school group, and we have a little chat on WhatsApp, and I had to share this with the guys in the group, and I asked them to share it to the one person. I asked them all to share it to the one person.
Cool.
It's this song here. It's called "Love Is in the Air."
I think I need more time with you. Let's take our love up to the moon. This love is in the air. Send me right up there. Such a glowing energy. Love is in the air. Endless possibilities. Such a glowing energy sends me right up there.
I like it. It just speaks to you, Love is in the air. And
well.
Yes, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, there is something about that song, I think, for most people, because it has been the most popular to date from the EP in terms of various, the reception generally. And it did win an independent award recently, which of course was great. And it was interesting.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. And so when you were saying how for you it's a song which is quite meaningful now, even more so now in times of conflict, this award is called the Modern Soulful Music Awards. And her idea, the lady who runs it, is a very fascinating individual called Dr. Dorothea Enrique. And her kind of philosophy is that soulful music, it doesn't even have to be soulful music as we might tend to generalize it, or, as being related to the Black music tradition. But for her, soulful music is anything with a sort of a message of love and inspiration. And if Love Is in the Air seemed to speak to her in that way. So obviously that makes me really happy. And that song, which I would say it's in the neo-soul genre, that is the vein, maybe in addition to Lovers Rock, that I would like to continue in going forward, kind of focus more on.
Yeah, I think I could hear a reggae-ized version too.
Well, that too.
But the one that really I could feel more of in reggae is this one.
Oh yeah.
A track called "Put On My Coat." The EP is called "Barely Concealed." Her name, Rachel Davie Lee.
There's some things I've learned in my life. I need my time, but every time, there you go. It's been a minute since we last spoke. I hope things ain't different. Still visit where we used to hang out. Hey Scout, I'll be at the lookout. Headed down this road.
So I'll tell you this from now, Rachel.
It leads to
I'm going to do a remix to this.
on my
All
Be
right.
warned.
hoping that I'll see you.
I knew the song had to fall with the right hands.
I'm going to do a
With,
remix to this.
Be something extra.
You know, I apart from Stu being my last name, a part of my last name, I really have a tendency to mix up things, you know, quite a bit. It's another track, it's called Make Me Feel So Good. And this EP really makes me feel good. Her name, Rachel Davie Lee. Just a couple of minutes before we take a break.
Our busy bars are packed. I'm lost in the crowd. There you are, standing in the back. Can't hear what you're saying 'cause the music's so loud. Come take my hand. Let's dance good.
Let's have a dance.
Chance.
Flamenco, maybe?
The idea. That was the idea. Yeah, nothing too deep really with that song. Just, you know, let's dance. Make me feel good.
Right? This is the last song on the track, on the EP. And we're going to take a break at the top of the hour. Her name is Rachel Davie Lee, folks. Go check her out.
I think we need a time out.
The track is called Seasons.
Just leaving and just walking out.
Rachel, I want to thank you very much for taking the time out to chat with us.
I feel
Welcome to Radio Global family.
Thank you, Kevin, and it's great to be part of the family. I feel very honoured that you've had me on the show, and it's been a really enjoyable enjoyable way to spend the evening. So thank you, and thank you for your support, and thank you
You're very
for
welcome.
supporting all your listeners as well.
You're very welcome. We're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we mix up the stew part. You might be able to hear some more of these tunes. You never know. Come back and see. Rachel, take care. Gregory, big up your status, my brother.
See you,
Take care.
Kevin. Bye-bye.